Welcome. Thank you for joining me. We are in Toronto, Canada, in what some people might consider the center of the city, at the intersection of Yonge and Bloor. My understanding is that still today, Yonge Street might be the longest street in North America. I could be mistaken. You feel free to correct me about that if you'd like. So while I don't live in Toronto now, I still continue to work here. I was born, raised, and grew up in Toronto. For the last many years, I haven't spent much time in this area, although just a few weeks ago when the Freedom Convoy was protesting at Queen's Park, I managed to make it down here and have a quick look around. We're focused much more on the protest at the time than looking around. So today's more of an exploration to give you a look at this beautiful city and see what's been going on in this area, what kind of shops have popped up, what kinds of things are closed. And an announcement is literally being made right now about the fact that mask mandates in Ontario will be lifted on March 21st. So not too long from now. For now, I expect to see a lot of people wearing masks. The last time we were walking around and noticing, it seemed to be about 60-40 people wearing masks versus not outdoors. So we'll see. But thank you so much for joining me. We'll get moving in a moment here. Scratch and PPA, thank you for coming in. Decided to start very early. One of the things I didn't consider, my favorite parking lot down here is taken up. So I parked on a street side. But with those meters, you have time limits, so we're only really allowed to park for 3 hours. So I got to be out of here by 2 p.m. So we'll see if we can hold the stream until then. But thank you for coming in, and I'm happy to give you a look at this beautiful city. I love Toronto. It's always been home. I live about an hour and a half away now, close to Niagara Falls, and I do a lot of outdoor streaming there as well. So I hope you'll consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. I'd love a thumbs up, and those really do help. Kerfuffle, good to see you in the house. Four Corners Custom Products, thanks for coming in. I'm gonna get up and start walking in just a second. Just getting my stuff together. It's not that cold today. We're at 1 or 2 degrees, something like that. There's not a crazy amount of wind, so hopefully it won't be terrible. And Robert Stroud, maybe that's the case, but thank you for coming in. Let's get up and have a look and see what's going on. What I intend to do is stick around this area, so I'll walk, I don't know, 15 minutes up the street, turn around, come back, go south, just stick around this Bloor and Yonge area. I'll give you a bit of a look around before I cross the street. I'm gonna try not to walk too fast. One of the things I've noticed in the last few streams is that I tend to race my way around. I don't know why that is. So we'll try to take it easy today and just enjoy a look at Toronto. Hang together, good to see you here. Oh, Sudbury. Yeah, I forget how far that is, if it's 4 or 5 hours. Went there once for kind of staycation with my family, if I'm right. That's where the nickel mine is, right? Depending on how far we get, we'll get a bit of a mix of old and new Four Corners. Toronto's a beautiful city, but there is, it's one of Canada's oldest cities, of course. So you find a real mix of architecture here. We're gonna head north on Yonge Street for now, and we'll see where we're at. Here's something that I always find interesting, right? Being somebody who really enjoys marketing. These are, there's thousands of these stands. I forget what they call them exactly, but they're poster boards. And they're made of, it's somewhat like cork, almost like plywood. And anybody's free to post whatever they want there. The reason they started putting those around was so that people would not put them on bus shelters and every other post and thing that they find everywhere. But it's kind of cool that those have been around long enough now. I'm sure they're effective to a point. We're actually right outside the Hudson Bay. This is, I'm assuming, soon to be gone. Tex-Mex, good to see you in the house. The Stock Explorer, thanks for coming in. Yeah, these skyscrapers are certainly scraping the sky here. I'm not sure if there's any limit of any kind on how high a building can be in downtown Toronto. If I understand right, most cities have limitations in zoning laws and things like this. So that's why in a town like Niagara Falls, where you see me most often, you don't see a lot of buildings over 3 or 4 stories. But as the city congests and we get more and more population concentrated in areas, they have to change those laws so that developers can come in and start building higher structures. This is what I'm talking about already. We're seeing a mix of new and old. There'll be zoning laws around here that will also talk about the idea that some buildings will be declared as historical sites. And in that case, you will be allowed to renovate, but not completely destroy an original building. So usually what happens is, we used to see this with a lot of the nightclub district, is they will leave the front entrance of the building standing and then rip the rest of it down, rebuild the tower behind it, but leave that tiny bit of architecture there. Not that I'm saying I'm right about that, but that's my understanding. And getting an idea of the kind of population there is in the heart of this town. Jubba Bruce TV, good to see you in the house. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for those thumbs up. They really do help. If anybody hasn't already and you have the ability to share this live stream out, whether it's on a community tab here on YouTube or on Twitter or Facebook in a group or on Reddit and a subreddit or anything like that, I'll appreciate it. It helps get a couple more people into the stream right now and could see this stream and video pushed a little bit farther in the coming days and maybe even weeks ahead. You can see there's a mix of franchises and mom and pop shops around here as well. I'm sure we're going to see a lot of for lease signs. Some of that will have to do with the pandemic and all we've been through in the last couple of years. Some of it is just natural for the area. Businesses and things come and go. Hang Together, yes. That was, which one was that? Mama's Pizza? I forget what it's called. We just looked at it. That might be lunch later. We'll see. I parked right beside an A&W. I like the idea of patronizing, if that's the right word, smaller businesses. Restaurants and things like that. I'd rather go in if I'm going to eat something like a hamburger and get it from somewhere that's unique. But we'll see. I'll do that after we're done anyway. Nate Vlog, good to see you in the house. I always forget to mention this, but you know, part of my small YouTuber journey, if you want to call it that, started with a lot of creators like Nate Vlog. And in all this time, it's getting close to, it's well over 2 years, could be 2.5, almost 3 years now. Nate Vlog has been there the whole time. This is somebody who I was introduced to that long ago, and I was overwhelmed when I started meeting a lot of YouTubers with channels starting out, if you want to put it that way. And I was overwhelmed by the generosity, in so many other YouTubers willing to help each other and say, hey, I'll come, I'll watch all your stuff, I'll hang out, I'll introduce you to more people. Because here on YouTube, it doesn't take subscribers away from somebody to give them to somebody else. So that inspired a lot of idea. But Nate Vlog is somebody who's literally been with me for years, so I appreciate that. All of our moderators, by the way, have channels of their own and are longtime friends. Scratch and PPA has a birthday coming up and has recently reached 1,000 subscribers, which is an important milestone for anybody with a YouTube channel. So hopefully you'll join me in congratulating him for that. He's working on watch hours right now, which is something that's important to all of us. So if you find yourself with the time to run a playlist of videos, then I know Scratch and PPA will appreciate that. He does a lot for a lot of people, more than most actually. And we'd be happy to see him move a little bit farther with the help of a few people. Chizer, good to see you in the house. Thanks for coming in. Kaye, is that how I pronounce that? Nate Vlog's on vacation right now. He has a YouTube channel, of course, like I just said. He'll be streaming. He does live streams and also hops in on other panels and stuff. Lots of creators here, or lots of people here in the chat have channels of their own as well. I wanted to give a bit of a look at some of the stuff that's around here. And you can see what I'm talking about, this mix of architecture between the old and the new. I think it makes Toronto unique and fascinating. We're close to the Yorkville area, and this is where a lot of lounges and nightclubs and things like that have been. Oh, pardon me. Thank you. I should have heard that guy. I was walking in the bike lane. Looks like he might be doing a delivery. Could be DoorDash or something. Uber Eats or whatever. These were never here when I was spending a lot of time downtown. But obviously you can hop on a bike and rent that and then take it, drop it off at another location. And now everything's controlled by apps. I think this is the store I went in when I went to, this is the store I went in when I was doing the filming the protest a few Saturdays ago. And I just needed an extra cable, a charging cable, and got it there. One of the things about like a huge city like this is there's basically anything you want 24 hours a day. If you want a charging cable at 4 in the morning, you can just go outside and within 5 minutes have one. Northeast Lincolnshire Train Spotting Hub, good to see you in the house. Yeah, Chizer, I hope you'll come by. Jeff and I will be happy to take you out for a beer at any time. Jim Marty, good to see you in the house. K-Lastic TV, good to see you in the house. Thank you. Oh, you're in the Philippines. Forgive me, I should have known that. I saw Nate Vlog. He was actually on, I think, Travel Fun 69 the other day with Jeff. Or Beers and Cheers, his other new channel. And he was on vacation, but I must have forgotten where exactly you were. Mrs. VSNC09, good to see you in the house. A lot of familiar faces here and a lot of new friends that have been made over the last several weeks. I talked to Jeff from Travel Fun 69 this morning. He said it might not go live until later today. And I think he's doing Beers and Cheers tonight because it's raining down there. So he's in close to Washington. He's in Hagerstown for the American Convoy, the People's Convoy they call it. Burns, Alberta. On the right side of history, yes. We'll see, but I'd like to think so. JB, good to see you in the house. Thank you for coming in. And thank you, everybody, for those thumbs up as well. They really do help. Even I have to be reminded when I'm on a phone, because you have to turn the chat off to get that done, but it only takes a second. You don't lose your place. We always see a lot of construction of different things happening. That's expected, of course, in a big city. A lot of park area as well. I'll turn around, cross the street, and head the other way shortly. We're literally exploring today because I haven't spent a lot of time in this area really ever in my life, in this particular intersection or area. Most of what I would have come down here for would be errands, like either coming to pick up something from a shop or working in one of the bars or nightclubs in my younger days. Cabaret Gaming, good to see you in the house. Thanks for coming in. Train Spotting Hub, I haven't done any premieres myself for a while. Scratch and Pete did one yesterday. Seemed to go fine. Yeah, bike lanes are something else. I mean, I don't tend to ride, so it doesn't come to mind most of the time. I think it's great to have things like that just about anywhere, but there's always arguments back and forth between people who ride and people who don't over who owns the road and who feels entitled and all that stuff. And then they talk about the idea of changing some of the streets to one way and this other stuff. I think that Toronto's too old for that. Now, I could be wrong, but you know, when you have, for a lot of people, 30, 40, 50, 60 and beyond years of habits and places that you go, places that you explore, things that you do, family in areas and things like this, I don't know how you would take a street like this and turn it one way, change the traffic pattern of everything. But I'm also not a structural engineer or technical engineer or city planner or whatever all their different titles might be, so I may be completely wrong and it might be easier than I think, but it's all just talk until something actually happens. I was just listening to the news on the way down here, and there was an announcement made about a hospital coming to a town. I believe it's Brantford, and it's a hour or so away from Toronto, maybe a little longer. But they said it's going to take 10 years. And I think this is what the situation is when governments are doing the planning and production and stuff. Jaden, good to see you in the house. Thanks for coming in. A lot of Firkin pubs down here. We walked by one earlier. Or I did. We'll catch it when I go back the other way. Firkin is, I'm assuming, it's a chain or a franchise. And what you usually have is a name like Lion and Firkin, or I don't know, Animal and Firkin or something in Firkin. And it's, if I'm right, Irish pubs. But they might have expanded into a lot more than that. I haven't been to one in a while. There's the live stream idea. If we can get Chizer and Scratch and Pete and Travel Fund 69 and anybody else that will come out in Toronto for a meetup, we'll go and explore some of those places. No one's eating at the patios right now. Just it's like 1 or 2 degrees, and I don't know whether a lot of places want to have them staffed right now. You know, there's been all this bit with the mandates and the masks, and up until this past week you had to prove your vaccination status and this and that. So anybody who didn't have proof of vaccination full vaccination status was not able to eat. You can't sit down and eat somewhere. You're free to take out. But anyway, I believe that that would have caused a lot of lack of business here. So a lot of the places might not have been willing to staff up and be ready to have people on the patio, knowing that it wouldn't get used. Now here is a place, like we used to have a lot of these in a few restaurants and many nightclubs that I worked at, so that you could have a lot of outdoor stuff right through the winter. New Year's Eve parties, Christmas parties, and things like that. And they're just simple propane heaters. But if you get enough of those happening, everybody's warm enough. We're really just exploring today because, like I said, I've never actually spent a lot of time in this area, but I certainly haven't been down here except for that protest a few weeks ago. So I'm curious for myself to see what's happened, what kind of things are around here. I'm always interested to see how many places are closed and open and new and things like that. Brenda, good to see you in the house. Yes. These a lot of the buildings down here are so old that I'm sure a lot of the restaurants and things, they have to do what they can. If you don't have room in your building for some of the things you need, certainly you could put it outside. I've seen a lot of restaurants with freezers outside. And what you can't see here, because I'm not going to go in any of these places, or I'm not expecting to, is when you get into some of these buildings, the basements are really, really low ceilings. Like we're talking 7, maybe even 6 foot ceilings and things like that. So I've been in other places similar that have places so low as far as the ceiling goes that you're literally crawling around to get some of the stuff done. If you've ever had to carry beer cases or kegs into a crawl space, you'll know what kind of a horrible thing that is to have to do. Once when I was very young, I knew how to play a couple things. I could play the national anthem on the piano. I don't think I could do it now without at least an hour of practice. And I could only do it with one note at a time. No fancy fingering and stuff like that. Yeah, so Trizer, you're right. Chris Blamenden. Yeah, it's interesting. It's really unfortunate. The only way I can imagine to look at things now is to say there's opportunity, hopefully around the corner, for businesses to either pop back up or restart or have new things come up. It always happens. I don't know how people are paying the rent now. When we were working on King Street, which is just a couple streets south of where we are here, it's one of the streets that's got some extremely expensive real estate here in Toronto. King Street is known for theaters and shows and restaurants and things like that. We were paying, I think, $22,000 a month for a place with a liquor license of less than 300 people, if you can imagine. Did have a restaurant downstairs and a nightclub upstairs, but you know, to try to imagine what that rent would be like now, that was 15 years ago or something. Have Cheetah with you. Good to see you in the house. Thanks for coming in. Oh, that makes sense, Brenda. Thank you, GB. Yeah, yeah, that's something I don't think about, right? It's nice to have a big building or a big house, but you got to feed that building or house, and the more square footage or cubic footage you got, you see those bills rise pretty quick. And Toronto can get cold. We got one of these changing climates, so we have to have air conditioning in the summer, we have to have heating in the winter. Thankful too just to be out and get some fresh air and exercise, to be honest with you. Here's an example. If I look down the street a little bit, you get an idea of some of the older architecture in the homes and things. Hopefully I haven't missed anybody in the chat. I certainly don't mean to, as long as everybody's still active. I should get around to everybody, but I do appreciate everybody hanging out and engaging in conversation. All that stuff always helps, of course. Walking out in the bike lane a little bit just so that we can get an idea of how some of these places look here. I came out the other day just before sunset and caught the City Hall and the skating rink. People are out skating in Nathan Phillips Square, and the CN Tower and the big stadiums, the Rogers Center and the Scotiabank Arena. So I'm going to try to mix things up when I'm out here for these live streams. I'll try to be out in the day sometimes, out in the night, and catch different areas of the city. So you always have something fairly new to see. Toronto's huge, right? Couldn't cover it in a year coming out like this once a week. Okay, thank you, Northeast Lincolnshire. Parking is something that's a bit of an issue down here. They do have some parking on some streets, but you got to kind of get away from Yonge and Bloor to get that done in most cases. But there's a lot of underground parking. So in big cities, I find it to be a benefit to drive a smaller vehicle because you, pardon me, doing this to people. Should have a mirror behind me or something. In a big city like this, where the population is so congested and the parking is so cramped together, you find that your vehicle gets nicks and scratches in it from, people opening doors and stuff like that. But driving a smaller vehicle can be helpful. When you drive a truck and things like this, you have to be careful. First time I came down here with my truck, a stupid move, but I thought I was going to clear one of the underground parkings for the Eaton Center, which is a huge shopping mall here in Toronto. I think it's our biggest. And when they had put the signs, I'll blame them instead of me, but when they had put the those things that give you the clearance hanging from the ceiling, they hung one a couple of inches higher than the other. So I made it in, but then realized I wasn't going to make it through the whole place, and I turned around and scraped the top of the truck on the other one. Not badly, it didn't damage it, but it's a thought. I have to consider that, right? I always make this big deal. My family laughs at me because I go on about it so much, but you never see anybody on their balcony. These condos are hundreds of thousands of dollars, some of them $1 million, for, not even the biggest condos, of course, right? And you would think that buying a place, you know, the idea of a patio is like, oh, I'm going to sit out there, I'm going to read, I'm going to eat out there, I'm going to have a drink out there or something. And it's rare in Toronto that anybody uses their patio or balcony is what I meant to say. You got to be prepared to drive aggressively too. If you're down here, you can't be docile. Canadians are known to be nice and like to give each other the right of way sometimes and this and that, but when it's your turn, you got to take it. People are not as patient as everywhere else when they're down here driving. Yeah, I did see a couple people wearing shorts. A stone rat, I missed it, Brenda, but it could have been. Anything's possible. Lots of salons down here, lots and lots of salons. And then a lot of these places will have their own lines of products that they use, whether it's beauty products or hair things, because they have so much business. And anything I might have remembered from Yorkville is likely gone now. You can see a lot of construction's already happened, a lot is happening. But they did have a lot of, like I said, lounges and nightclubs down here. And it's known as a quite expensive area with boutique shops for clothing and accessories and things like that. So thanks everyone for hanging out. Oh, thank you Northeast. I will have a look on Twitter when I get a chance this afternoon. See what's happening. Premieres are something that's a real benefit on YouTube when you're releasing your videos, because you get a live chat that's similar to a live stream, so people can talk about either the video or whatever else while it's running. Chances are you'll get more views on a 10-minute video by premiering it if you run a premiere than you would if you simply released it when you count the first 10 minutes. It's an interesting statue. I wonder what that's representing. If I don't see a plaque on it. Oh, is it the time? It's just a clock. Maybe. I'm gonna get hit by a bike soon enough. I've already driven at least 2 people bananas. At first glance, that structure over there looks like a aluminum wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube man. I enjoy spotting those when I get a chance. Unstable TV says they miss Toronto. They also have a YouTube channel. They do a lot of reaction videos. They're actually enjoying some rapid growth right now. Their stuff has really been taking off for a while. This is the area where we were the other day. It's a few weeks ago now, but I came down here on a Saturday for the Freedom Convoy protest. There was tens of thousands of people down here, and we had a bit of a look at this. We'll just walk this way for a few minutes and then head across the street again. Yes, those wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube man things. Interesting to see how few Canadian flags there are out now, considering when I was here a few weeks ago for that protest. But I'm sure every Saturday they're down here in at least some quantity. Not as major as a few weeks ago, of course. It's interesting how the look of the city changes literally by turning a corner here. Things are a lot more elaborate and fancy than they were just a moment ago walking down Yonge Street. We're on Bloor on the north side heading west now. Jim Marty, we actually just had our announcement that says that mask mandates for the province will be lifted on March 21st. I have yet to hear if the city's going along with it exactly, but the expectation is that they will, with the exception of hospitals, long-term care homes, public transit, and things of that nature. So I do have a question that eventually I'd like answered as to know, now that people will not have to wear masks, are businesses still going to be able to insist on it if they want to? Because my bet is in this town, they're going to allow that, which is fine. And then another curious question would be, I wonder if it's legal for a business to say that masks are not allowed because of what they would use as an excuse is identification purposes, right? Can't have people hiding their faces if they're going to commit crimes, and then treat everybody as if they might be a criminal, similarly to anybody who hasn't been wearing a mask for the last 2 years. I wonder as well if the tables are going to turn now, because the ridicule that a lot of people have had to go through for not wearing masks everywhere that they go might turn now onto the people who will be wearing masks in the future. But that's a guess. I could be wrong. I won't probably witness any of it myself, because my idea, of course, is that I believe in the freedom of people to choose. If you want to wear a mask by yourself outdoors in the fresh air, that's your choice, and it would take you a lifetime to get me to understand why, just like it would take me my lifetime to get you to understand why I might think the way I do. But we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, Northeast Lincolnshire, I love Toronto. The other thing too is the interesting part about the date that they're using, March 21st. Here in Canada, we have a thing called March break, and it's similar to what you'd expect in the United States for spring break, but they have it set in a different week, and I think that's done on purpose because of travel and tourism, but I could be wrong. So we have ours early. We don't have a typical winter break. We have a couple of things that the students call reading week, where they might get a week almost off of school, where they just go in for exams, if I even remember right. But March 21st is the day that the students go back to school after our March break. So that's why they set that date. Bearded Eagle, good to see you in the house. Kristen, my love, good to have you here. just wanted to come this far on Bloor Street so that you could have a look at the Royal Ontario Museum. Pardon me. It's fondly known as the ROM. Anybody want me to pick up anything for them here at Burberry or Tiffany & Co? Maybe a Louis Vuitton handbag? Walk in the front door and play guess the price. For those of you who were with me that couple of weeks ago, or if you're going to go back and watch, I've left all the live streams up. This was the intersection that was so lively. They had a dance party going. There was dump trucks as part of the convoy, and people were literally having a dance party in and outside of the dump truck. It was quite something to see. And we're at Queen's Park now. So on the north side, it turns into Avenue Road. This is a popular street that people use to avoid the highways to come all the way through the city. It's like a artery for the traffic. We'll cross the street so we can get a look at that museum. And this church had those stairs just packed with people. The whole intersection was packed with people. I missed my chance to get across the street. I'll just wait. There's too much traffic to worry about it now. And off in the distance, you see the CN Tower. So last week when I came down here, we went and looked at that. We got more of a close-up view. I've been lucky enough to be up the CN Tower many times. I think it takes a minute for the elevator to go from bottom to top, and it, up until a while back, was the world's tallest freestanding structure, apparently. Those of you who are fans of Drake, he used the larger part of the CN Tower there for an album cover last year or the year before. CN Tower, of course, is a staple both for Canada and Toronto. Part of what was our skyline for a long time, which now has drastically changed. So there's the Royal Ontario Museum. Interesting, the mix of new and older architecture just in that one building, of course. I haven't been in there in the longest time. I might have gone through there as a school trip as a young lad, but I can't be sure. I can't be certain. I don't remember any of it if I did. This is the area that we saw just a few weeks ago. They had it blocked off here. There's nothing but walking. And Queen's Park itself is a little farther down. So I'm not going to go down there. There's not much to see between here and there that we haven't already seen. But this is quite an interesting building. Maybe one of these days we'll take a tour. I'll have to see if we can film in there. Yeah, we'll see, K-Lastic TV. I mean, it seems like that's always the case in the last 2 years, no matter what anybody does. I watched a TED Talk yesterday. I haven't seen one in a long, long time, and it was just a random thing that got suggested on my YouTube homepage, 6 or 8 minute video. And they were talking about the differences in mindset between liberal and conservative. And it's interesting to think that from this one doctor's perspective, it's something that we're somewhat born with. I wonder that, you know, because a lot of the things that I think myself, I can trace back to being 3, 4, 5 years old. I think, you know, could be wrong, but it seems like, right? And you wonder to yourself, okay, are you born with some of the thoughts that you have, or was it instilled by your parents or your teachers or your peers? I don't know. But anyways, this TED Talk was talking about the idea that if you really want to, I don't think the point was really change the world, but as an idea, if you really want to, you have to try to be open-minded. And even though we're all inclined to pick a side when a debate or an argument comes up, the control is to try not to. And then that way you can at least be open-minded to hearing both sides, because we know how rare it is to hear two sides of a story these days. Not saying I'm right, but it seems that way. I find also when I don't read a lot of books, but when I listen to audiobooks or podcasts or see things like that, TED Talks and stuff like that, I tend to not necessarily agree with every single thing that somebody says. There's a author that I like. His name is Simon Sinek. He has a book called Start With Why that is a staple in the, self-help or business or entrepreneur categories. And he seems to be extremely liberal in most of the thoughts. I'm not even saying I'm right about that, but I find myself not just nodding and agreeing with every single idea from this particular author. And I, after realizing that, started to notice that for a lot of others as well. I always want to question everything, right? Everything is always, well, I want to know why. Want me to take a needle? Well, why? It's not about the needle. It's why do you want me to have it? And then after it's well, you really need to take it. Then it's well, why do you want me to have it so bad? Now I want to know. And that relates to a lot of other things and issues and stuff like that. It's got to be annoying for parents and teachers and stuff when kids are constantly asking them why, and then they have to respond with, because I said so. That's popular. There you go. Yeah, JBTV makes sense. And then I also find that it seems to me that people, maybe myself included, see what they want to see no matter what you show them. You know what I mean? The idea of what some person might think is violent or peaceful looks very different to somebody else, even though they saw or watched the same thing, or God forbid, were actually there. So here we are back at Yonge and, we're at Yonge and Bay. We're at Bloor and Bay. We'll be back at Yonge Street shortly. But you're getting an idea of the magnificence of the city when I look at some of these buildings. And again, I keep mentioning it, I don't know anything about architecture, but I do find it fascinating to look at the mix of old and new. Not unsimilar to the idea that maybe when you're looking at properties and condos and things like that, you might find yourself looking at a very modern condo with the latest up-to-date technologies and features included, and then you might find yourself looking at a cottage or a cabin or a farmhouse or something like that. I think that YouTube has inspired me to kind of look at a lot more things a little more closely than I otherwise would have, because I got a lot of friends now with YouTube channels, right? Like an unreasonable number. And in trying to support friends with their YouTube channels, I find myself being fascinated by things I may never have originally searched for, therefore making me a fan of not just their channel, but the genre in which they've chosen to make their videos, for instance. If that makes sense. That's great, Brenda. Yeah, they're so our gas is expected to hit $1.91 tomorrow, or $1.90.9, and they have already warned the idea that food might be up by about 30% by the time the summer comes around, which, if I can translate what they're saying the way it typically is, that means next week. It was just a few weeks ago that they said we might see $1.90 by the end of the year, and we're 3 weeks later, or whatever it is, and we're here. So I think what they do is they condition us. I just think that. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not necessarily a conspiracy theorist. Maybe I am. I don't know. But I think that they condition us to have the idea that gas will be, let's say, $1.90 or $2. So when it goes back down to $1.75, we say, oh, thank God. Whereas I still am, I remember a day that doesn't seem too long ago when gas was 87 cents and we were flipping out. So now I just don't even know what to think. So now we're back at Yonge and Bloor, where we started. I started from that corner over there. So this is the Hudson Bay Company, and sadly that might be the beginning of the end for them. Apparently they're dropping retail, and I don't know whether they're going to go online only or what they're going to do. Is always a type of department store. You can get, clothing there and homewares and things like that. We'll head south on Yonge Street now and see what's happening here. Yeah, Jim Marty, interesting. Oh yeah, Jim Marty, YouTube is absolutely censored. Absolutely. It's interesting to see on just around the corner where we were not even a minute ago. The skyscrapers are packed in as tight as these older buildings, but we're seeing, some of the older stuff that obviously was built when there must have been zoning laws that said you could only have 3 stories. Be interesting to look back on this again many years from now and see how things had changed again. Guess we'll hurry up. So thanks everybody for hanging out. If you haven't given a thumbs up already, I hope you will. They really do help. I hope you're enjoying the look around Toronto. It's really an exploration for me because I didn't spend a lot of time ever in this intersection or this area myself for much reason. But I'm curious to see what is around here, what kind of businesses are surviving, what kind of businesses have popped up. What we've seen, traffic doesn't seem too terrible today either. Shoppers Drug Mart to us would be like maybe CVS. I think in the States it's our most popular, as far as I understand, primarily Canadian-owned pharmacy. We have a couple of other popular ones, but Shoppers Drug Mart is the one that seems to be everywhere, at least here in Ontario. And they keep popping up too. If I'd have known the Stock Explorer 20 years ago or 30 years ago, that might have been something I'd love to have been advised on. The Stock Explorer has a channel that brings us bite-sized information more than anything else when it comes to companies and products that we might consider when investing. Like for instance, anybody who invested in any of this is just raking in the cash now, but I don't know anything about it. I never have, so not something I might have dipped my toe into. There's Tim Hortons. You see those just about everywhere. Of course, here they got to be packed in with the rest of the buildings and structures and things like that. Vape store too, those things took off. This 180 Smoke vape store seems to be popular. You find that in shopping centers as well. I think there's one in Scarborough Town Center. I forget where I've seen it. Interesting theater here. Haven't been in there ever that I know of, unless it's ever changed names or something. Oh, it makes sense, Brenda, yeah? A lot of this green pea parking, you can get an app and it'll show you all the parking lots and I think available spots to a point. And then when you have the pay meters on the street, they all have numbers on them. So you just, I guess, enter, I haven't done it yet, you just enter your number for where you are and you've paid on the app. It's registered to your license plate, I'm sure, and all that. It's interesting, the technology that we don't have here though. So Gloria's Platter is a friend with a YouTube channel that gave us a video the other day walking through a Amazon fresh grocery store, and the cart has the checkout right on the handle. So as you push the cart, you've got an LCD screen there, and it knows as soon as you put an item into the cart what that item is and adds it onto the bill. And then when you walk by a checkpoint, it charges you. No human interaction of any kind. You will see a lot of variety in the different shops and stores, and especially food available in the restaurants, big or small. Toronto's an extremely multicultural city, so I'm sure just about any type of food you wanted to find is not too difficult. Oh, Walmart has it. I don't know if it's as interesting as I think it is to see like these older buildings and structures with the glass covered skyscrapers right behind them. You know, like this look right here. These surplus stores can be great. I don't know if they're ever found in smaller towns, but I imagine most big cities have them. Now this one's closed, but these surplus stores you can go in and find. For me, it's always been cables and cords and wires and things like that. So if you have like an old CD or VHS or tape player that you wanted to find the power cord for, just for fun, and play some of the old stuff you don't feel like digitizing or whatever, or stuff you can't find, then get in there and find it. And mixed in the middle of everything, of course, is the franchises. Part of me while I'm carrying my gimbal with the other hand here. McDonald's down the street, of course. And then thank you, Northeast. Yeah, RF, I certainly do love Toronto, always have. Pardon me again, I don't realize, every time I look at the phone, I put the other thing down. This is why I can't drive and use the phone at the same time. I'm terrible at even walking and doing it. I'm trying to be mindful of the time. Still got a while, I'll go down maybe another while here. That's what I was thinking, RF. I had heard some time ago that Yonge Street is the longest street. I thought it was in North America, but if it's in the world, that's interesting too, right? And this is just an interesting little part of it. As things open up even more, especially with these mask mandates and everything else, I'm hoping we can get some adventure type stuff happening where maybe we'll go through the ROM or we'll go to the CN Tower again or things like that. Esports Stadium. E-Blue, eh? Interesting, some of the businesses that didn't exist even 5 or 10 years ago that are now popular. Although I see for lease signs in the upstairs, so I wonder if that was it. Might not have been as successful as I think. There's a YMCA down the street there. Head back the other way. Yeah, you can see for yourself here how many people have been wearing masks. I think I meant to make a mental note of it while we were out walking and streaming today, but I haven't actually been paying attention. When I last was down here last week, in a different area, in an area not too far from here, but a different area, we saw some, it looked like about 60-40 to me, if I was right. Yeah, John B., I expect that here after the mandates are lifted on the 21st, we'll still have lots of people who will wear them. Some people will just wear masks for the rest of their life now. I'm assuming anyway. I wish for everybody just to do whatever they want. Got a lot of transit here too. Our mayor seems to be obsessed with transit. It's the only thing I seem to hear from him. And again, that could come down to me just hearing what I want to hear. I don't know. But everything is always transit. So we do have a subway system. I haven't been in the subway in a long time either. But it's pretty extensive and it's grown in my lifetime. But we have also a mix of buses of different sizes and streetcars, or I like to playfully call them trolleys, even though they're much more advanced now than they might have been back in the day when trolleys were really trolleys. Again, I feel myself walking extremely fast. Sirens, yeah, they're all over Toronto all the time. It's expected, right, with a city with this much population. Timothy, good to see you in the house. Yeah, LRT, I may have never been on in my life, actually, because I grew up in Etobicoke, and the LRT's over on the other side of the city. I grew up in the West End, that's over in the East End. Yes, John B. I remember when I had first started working in bars and things like that, we'd have guys drinking for hours upon hours, and then you'd hear a siren and you'd be like, well, that's my cab. Yeah. This again, and it's another just interesting view to me, where we see the older buildings that have been here for, you know, my guess would be maybe even 100 years, some things. And then the brand new skyscrapers behind them. I'm gonna jaywalk my way across the street here, because I want to see this Bake Code Croissanterie. It's interesting the names people come up with for their restaurants and bakeries and things like that. Some of the clever names they come up with. But I want to see what kind of incredible things they must do to a croissant to make it so enticing that somebody would have to go there. You know, if you think about what it takes to get to one of these places, not that it's a lot of effort, but you do have to find parking somewhere and then walk around here, not always in the best weather. So these businesses, like my guess is, have no choice but to do well with their products to build up reputation. Of course, I could be wrong. You always have the benefit of walk-by traffic. You know, I would have never known about this if I wasn't standing here. Just gonna let a few people pass here, and then I'll close in on these interesting looking croissants. There you go. Maple bacon is right there, almost in the middle. So this looks like 6 croissants for $30. So my bet is that it would probably be the tastiest croissant we've ever had, but still seems extravagant, far above my pay grade at this point. Just another bill, yeah. Of course, everything I'm talking about is in Canadian dollars, right? So roughly right now, Canada's $5 turns out to an American 4 or just under, if I'm right. I think our dollar's been floating around the high 70 cents for a long time. Oh, I can only guess, John B. You know, one of the things that can be helpful is if you get one of these all-inclusive deals on a rental or something where you can get things locked in, and if it's with a big enough company, they may not raise the rent on every single thing that increases. I'm sure different cities and areas have different rules about that too. Oh, rent is like just out of control here. Yeah, they said the other day the average detached home in Toronto is now 2 million Canadian dollars. How the average person or family is qualifying for that mortgage is way beyond my comprehension. Has nothing to do with being able to afford it or not. I'm just talking about qualifying. How on earth did that happen? I think I still have Ed Mervish's book. I never read it, but I bought it. We went through Honest Ed's. Was a monster discount store that was here in Toronto for my lifetime. And the guy who had started that owned a lot of these theaters. And I bought his book at the store when I went through there. We went through for like a last look. Can't remember if we streamed it. Might not have. Yeah, we must not have. And I still have yet to read it though. So look at this, what I'm talking about here. I know I go on about it endlessly, but like look at this older building that's right here where McDonald's has got it now. And then right behind that, this extremely modern, seemingly brand new condo building right there. It's quite a mix. I'm sure all major cities have some of that, but I think it's what makes each city unique then. I'm fascinated by big cities. I've been lucky enough to have been to many. Boston, New York, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Chicago. Never got to spend a lot of time in any of them, but was there frequently. So like Boston, for instance, was there many times, and Hartford and Providence. I went out there for once a month for almost a week for a year and a half. Oh, I think I've been here. 401 Games. I think this is just like a, oh, maybe I'm mistaken. No, I haven't been here. Okay, never mind. I thought it was one of these places that is like a independent store that has video games. You could trade old Nintendo and Sega cartridges and things, but I could be mistaken about that. Guy's gonna help us cross here because they're dumping I don't know if they're actually doing the concrete on that sidewalk right now or whatever they're putting in there, or they're just getting it ready. It's a lot of work, especially when it comes to city. Like look at how many people are working on that project. Oh, they're just getting it ready for the structure behind, I see. I guess they won't be working on the sidewalk for a while. Sam the Record Man's gone. Yeah, I'm sorry to say. I forget where they put the sign. I'll look it up, and one of the streams I'll plan to go to look at it. They took the sign, and that was Sam the Record Man on Yonge Street. So, oh, for the life of me, I forget the address. I spent a lot of time there. I was a DJ in my early adult life and bought a lot of records at all the different stores. Sam the Record Man was there along with, I think there was a Tower and A&M, and HMV had a monster store at 333 Yonge Street. I remember the grand opening for that. And Sam the Record Man sign that was above the store was iconic. So they've taken it. I drove by it a summer or two ago. I gotta remember where it is. But they've kept that as like a historical icon for Toronto. Oh, hey, thank you from Sweden. Yeah, in another stream, I'll go down to the Eaton Center and Yonge Square, and I'll walk by where the old record stores were, and we'll see where they are. Even one of my favorite record stores, Play the Record, still exists. Eugene still owns it with, I think, Jason Palma. I think they're partners, but I could be wrong. And they moved, though, to Spadina. So I was there for a record store day video that I did a couple of years ago now. And I don't know what I'm going to do for record store day this year. It's coming up, and there's probably 10 to 20 things that I wouldn't mind getting. So we'll have to see. So thanks everybody for hanging out. I hope you enjoy the look around Toronto. If you haven't given a thumbs up already, I hope that you will. And if you know somebody who might enjoy a look around the downtown heart of Toronto like this, then I hope you'll share the video. This is something we didn't have for many years. I think a lot of people looked forward to it. Chipotle, I guess they're gone from there, but as far as I understand, they're still around. This is the parking lot that I often park at. It's so close to the area and above ground, right? You see all these pickup trucks here, but it's all taken up. I don't know, this must be the trucks. I'm assuming that maybe some of these trucks belong to the guys who are working on the next block there. So I couldn't find a spot. Oh, I had a pizza from that place across the street there. In the bottom of that tower, you can barely see the sign, but it says P.Co., as in like pizza company, pizza. And they do this unique artisan way of doing it or whatever. I wasn't a huge fan of it. It was good, but almost like trying too hard to me, maybe. You know? Like serving spaghetti with the sauce on top. I don't know if that's supposed to actually be a thing or not, but I've been known to do that, not having a clue what on earth I was doing. Two Pineapples, good to see you in the house. Thanks for coming in. They actually have a 24-hour live stream going where they've got... they live in Hawaii. They've taken a couple of long trips over the last many months and brought a lot of different footage from Alaska and South America, many different countries. But their 24-hour live stream primarily focuses on a volcano that's active in their area and has been again for a while. They're doing just great over there. Yeah, I wondered about that, Timothy, right? I might do a bit of that, but I got to get myself a backpack that I'm happy with. So if I'm going to get a backpack, which I don't have right now, I will get an anti-theft one so that, you know, if somebody wanted to come by and swipe anything, typically they're not gonna. It's not like I ever feel unsafe. I'm not the smallest guy in the world, and, you know, I usually hold my phone and gimbal up pretty high. I think everybody gets the idea that I'm either live or recording. But I will get a anti-theft backpack at some point, and then maybe start taking the transit. I was thinking about it today. I also don't mind the idea of having a vehicle close just in case I need to get something that I've either forgotten or go back for a charge or anything like that. Yeah, that is St. Paul's Anglican Church. Not that I know anything about it, but I just read the sign a moment ago. It's just interesting. What I've been talking about mostly today is the difference in the collection of old and new architecture, where we've got these older buildings or older fronts of the buildings and then the glass covered skyscrapers right behind them. And then you got buildings like this that I would imagine were built in around the 70s or maybe even 80s. There's been a lot of buildings that have that look, a lot of concrete and a bit of glass. Now, you know, as technology improves and time goes on, it becomes almost all glass covered now, it seems. Ted Rogers Way, the gentleman behind our communications and all kinds of our mainstream media. It's one of their buildings there. I think Kiss 92 runs out of there, if I remember right. I worked at a few of the radio stations. I worked at Z103 for about 8 years, and then Virgin Radio for a year or so, and then Kiss 92 for a year or so. And when I worked at Virgin and Kiss, I'd only go in there like once or twice, I think. Virgin I'd go in occasionally, but Z103 I worked there full time. I was like, I'd go to work. The rest of the ones I just do the work at home. Different radio shows and things like that. So they obviously own a lot of real estate around here. Or I'm assuming. You never know. You never know if they own it or if they rent, right? As a young lad, I used to think that every building that's got a name on it was owned by the company that has the name on the building. Only later did I realize, no, they most often rent, but whoever the anchor tenant is gets their name on the top, or maybe they make a separate deal for that or something. Yeah, Yorkdale Mall would be a great place to park, not to mention to do a stream. At some point, I'll probably get through all the different shopping malls. I mean, they're like cities of their own here in Toronto. I still got a bit of time, so we'll continue on for another moment here. So thanks everybody for hanging out. I really do appreciate it.
Hi, boss.
How are you? Just gotta beware if I'm being followed there. Likely not. That's one thing I'll be happy for when the masks disappear a little bit more, is that there's better identification when we're out streaming and stuff like that. Well, you never expect anything negative to happen. You never know. I've heard stories where people come up to a streamer and just swipe their camera out of their hand just for the purpose of smashing it, not even for taking it. There's no point in taking an iPhone these days. But if you can catch somebody, that's the other benefit. This is not the reason, but you know, I'm lucky enough to use two phones. I got one I'm watching the chat on and the one that we're filming on. It makes that a lot easier and helps me to read the chat, which I've never been the best streamer at. And but you know, if somebody did happen to grab a camera from you, you still got another one right there. This is interesting. We've got Tim Hortons and Timothy's, which are competitors, right across the street from each other. Yes, Skydome. I was so disappointed when they changed the name. It'll always be the Sky Dome to me. I think I mistakenly reference it that way at times. Maybe I'll cross the street here and I'll head back that way. Joe Creep, good to see you in the house. So thanks everybody again. I hope you'll give a thumbs up if you haven't already. I just wanted to take a look around Toronto today. We're literally like in the heart of the city. Some people might refer to it as the center, just because it's at Yonge and Bloor Street. And as I come downtown Toronto for more live streams, I will mix up the content. So we'll go to different areas, sometimes in the day, sometimes at night, I hope. And then primarily I do a lot of outdoor streaming in Niagara Falls, which is about an hour and a half away from here, where I now live. Of course, I was born, raised, grew up, and continue to work in and around Toronto. After all this time, I finally found some customization settings in Streamlabs mobile, by the way, where you can increase the size of the text. So for all the live streams I did last year and the year before that, where I wasn't able to read the text as well as I wish, now you're able to, I see that you're able to raise them. The other thing too is if you multi-stream on like Twitch and the other platforms, you're able to adjust the text for each platform if you want. So if one was more dominant or didn't show up the way you want, you can adjust it. Ace Flaw 1, good to see you in the house. I don't know, I saw that, Timothy, yesterday. Somebody said that, but now unfortunately everything I see I question. Is that real? Is that true? Literally everything. Most of the news I get now is from friends that send things to me either on Instagram or Facebook or different things like that. So I question them all. And there's just as many mistakes in these things as anywhere else. Somebody will send me something that accidentally was from years ago or from another country, something like that. So I have to question that. I try not to be too trigger happy with the anger when it comes to a lot of the things that I see, if that makes sense. This is interesting. It's called Community by Kirk Newman, done only 20 years ago and commissioned by Manulife Financial. Interesting. Oh, that's it. That's the same one, 2 pineapples. I just walked, I'm walking the other way now, back towards the area where we started. It's something though. Look at how they've retrofitted it too, right? With that modern entrance and glassware and everything else, but not taken away from the original structure. You gotta wonder how some of this was constructed to literally have lasted hundreds of years. Now, I don't know anything about that particular building, but I'm just saying in general, right? When we see some of these older buildings, we know that in Toronto, things can be that old. Timothy, interesting. There's a lot of different ways to look at these things. I can only imagine what all this has done to everyone, myself included. Kristen and I went out for breakfast the other day, and it felt so weird. One of the things that I noticed was how loud it seemed. It wasn't loud, but it was like, I haven't heard that kind of noise, like going to a breakfast diner and hearing just the sound of the kitchen, the sound of the grills, the sound of the people chatting. Haven't heard that in 2 years, or however long it's been, right? Part of my shaky camera movements, I'm trying to pull a glove off here and it's not doing what I want. So thank you everyone for the time that you spent. I'll hope that you'll give a thumbs up if you haven't already. We're just a block away from Yonge and Bloor there again. There's the Hudson Bay Company off in the distance where we somewhat started. And I'm just parking myself for a second here. Find a place to set this down just for a moment. Oh, there's the place. Look, Sunset Grill. We went to a Sunset Grill the other day, but it was in our area closer to Niagara Falls. So part of my shaky camera movements again while I just park this camera for a second here. Thank you everybody for the time that you spent. Again, I really do appreciate every moment that you spent here. And I'll try to get out again this weekend to Niagara Falls. I changed my mind at the last minute. Last week we had some heavy wind warnings, and I figured that would be terrible for a stream. It's bad enough with the little bit of wind we usually get. But thank you again, everybody. And if you're watching and haven't subscribed yet, I hope that you will. And I intend to do a lot more outdoor live streaming among the other variety that I bring on this channel. You can check that out. Keep the notification bell on so you know when I stream next or drop a video. And give me a thumbs up if you haven't already on the way out. I'll appreciate it greatly. Thanks to all the moderators for hanging out. Every moderator here is a longtime friend of mine, and they all have channels of their own, so I hope you'll check them out. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.